Hey, wanted to take a moment just to answer Gavin McDowell's question about how to do, short styled hairs. And it really is a common question, and it probably seems like it's more complicated than it actually is. And for some of you who have followed me for some time now, you know that I like to have depth. And that principle of creating something past something by using a clean edge to value or taking into consideration how light works is really something that plays all the way through, even though you may not always recognize it. I think, Gavin, you were talking about having an extremely short hairstyle, like a crew cut, or maybe even very close up the side of a man's head. And so I thought I'd just go ahead and just show you a couple of things that at first you may not think apply. But like I said, I think there's a commonality here, and it's really, I think, good to be able to, see the difference. I just pulled a few things that were done before, and this is very, very common, depending on, the only thing that might vary is that maybe how kinky the hair is for a beard. This is the same principle you'd use for longer hair on a head. But you'll see that there are places where there are clean edges to value. This was done very quickly just to demonstrate, how to, come up with the basic form and to show how we start shoving things back into the deeper parts of the beard. And that helps us show how light works, because sometimes people try to demonstrate things with a dark stroke and they have white spaces instead, and it never looks right. And some people just, it's kind of interesting because it's a negative, but it's hard to recognize it like that because we are trying to use our pencils to draw hair, and a hair really very seldom can demonstrate an actual hair. A pencil stroke can't. Because it's dark. There are places over here along the side where it might be silhouetted against a background. There might be a darker hair that comes in a mixed valued beard. Maybe several of the hairs are a different color, and you might have a darker hair in there. But usually if you're going to show depth, there always has to be something darker behind that, because everything that goes to where there's less light is going to get darker, and everything that comes to where there's more light shining on it is going to get lighter. So we have to have some way of demonstrating that. This is very, very simple. Another little sketch was just using my beard just to show you again just this very, very basic idea of allowing yourself to come in and actually draw a space, leaving, you can do this, or you can have a tone, and you can actually erase out of the tone, which is another reason that the 5-pencil method works so well, because we don't have to press too hard, and if we utilize the proper pencil, we can keep from scoring the paper and damaging it, or having something that we can't erase. But in this case, when you lay it down nicely, you can come in here and just take it off so easily. So I can create a new hair, and then I can come back in with my brush and I can cast some tone back in there, especially if I'm using a 2B pencil, which I often like to do because it has a softer lead and allows more to go onto the paper. So when I'm creating these little spaces just to kind of get a rough idea about how I'm going to show something past, now I have that nice softer lead that has a little extra that I can use my brush on, a little extra to distribute with the brush. And so when I come in here, now it's actually making those light voids that I didn't draw, it's actually casting some value into those areas. So then I can again come in and I can take out something that's even brighter, or clean something up, and I can put a new hair if I thought I needed more, and all kinds of things. So anyway, what happens, it doesn't make any difference what kind of hair it is. It could be kinkier hair, still the same idea. It can be multicolored hair. You know, like in a beard, sometimes you'll see kind of a salt and pepper technique, and we would still use the same principle, although some of the hairs may be a little different color. And so now, when we're coming up with very, very short hair, you might see maybe a black person with very, very short hair. A lot of ethnic groups have different types of hair, and so it doesn't make any difference whether it's kinky, but this just is a freer stroke. Let me get this again. This is just coming in here and starting to have maybe something that isn't quite so straight, and then as you're going around to the part that is, we're looking more from the side, and we're going to see a denser amount of hair, whereas if we're looking straight on, we're looking more at the scalp. But over here it gets a little denser, and so we've just put more strokes in there. And we want to make sure we don't have any bright voids over here, because this would be also on the side or on the top or wherever there's less light. So everything gets darker when it goes to where there's less light, even the highlights. And so then if you have something that is very, very short, and this is very light, but I just pulled this out of some of my archives here and thought it might help describe it again just a little bit. So now let's just see. We can come in closer, and you can see the little strokes that I've made. The tapered stroke still works wonderful, because if I come in and I'm doing something that is very, like this, where I'm actually just hitting the paper, I mean, that's fine, except for the fact that the tapered stroke works very well, because it helps me be able to have a little more grace and flow like hair would have. This might be okay or acceptable for maybe stubble, but it would still be harder for me to maybe increase the value, maybe lighten it up, because I've just gone in here and I've made these so dark that I can't get them off very well. So anyway, the tapered stroke means that I'm going to glide on and I'm going to glide off, and I also would have something probably a little more random. And yet you see what I've done here? Look at how all these are in a row. You want to be very careful that if you're creating something like this or any other hair when it's short, that you don't just start coming in and you go doot, 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 like this, and just put them all in a row, and then you start down here in another row and another row, because everything would be random enough you wouldn't see an edge like this. And it's hard to think about when you're concentrating about making your strokes. So you want to have something where maybe you're landing in different places. You're looking at the overall effect. You don't want to get too long. We need short strokes to show that it has a certain length to it. They can be shorter or longer than this. And also we want to pay attention to the direction of the hair, because it wouldn't look very good if I was having a short hairstyle like this and yet I was just making strokes the wrong direction, unless the hair was actually laying that way. So it really helps to be able to pay attention and see if I'm really capturing how hair is, the direction it's growing out of a head, whether it's short or long, because it is going to subconsciously make this feel like it's right or it's wrong. And so when I'm creating this, I can shingle, and that means that I'm just going to kind of do the random lengths. I'm going to go over the tops and layer them, and I'm not going to have those rows. And I can gradually get it darker over here. I can put a few more strokes in here if it's starting to go to that darker edge where we're looking through a little thicker. It could be a beard, it could be hair on your head or anything. But I want to make sure that I don't get something that's solid. If I just see this as a solid color, this isn't going to look much like hair. It's really worth it for me to start building something that has some texture, that's believable, doesn't have to capture every single solitary hair, because we're always creating an illusion. It's impossible for us to do everything exactly the same. But boy, there's some wonderful opportunities for us to create just enough that our minds will accept it, and so will the viewer's mind. We kind of create the illusion, And then we can decide how much more detail we need. If I need a few more strokes, if I need to fade this away, if I've gotten too dark out here, I can easily take it off because of the method that we're using, the 5-pencil method. And the application of the pencil just makes all the difference in the world. So remember, this is really the same principle. I'm showing this scalp as lighter than the hair, and yet over here it gets fairly dark. If I was going to come in here with maybe lighter colored hair, I could go ahead and start creating a value like so, using the patch exercises, the sphere principle. Might be that it comes out here, maybe a secondary light shining on the head, lightening it up, reflective light. And maybe your main highlight is out here. But anyway, we can create this, but always showing a curve. Now we've created some value. I did this with my harder pencil, but we could do this with maybe the 2B2. You can try it, just gliding on, doing it very, very, very lightly. We just don't want to get too much on there. And then we want to be able to, we can brush it. This will help fill in some of the little voids and gaps. And then we can come in and we can actually find out if we need something a little darker that goes past. Pay attention to the direction of the hair. And these Mono Zero erasers are wonderful because we can cut the end off with a blade and have this wonderful edge all the way around. And then we can come in here and we can actually create a light line out of the tone, even before we put any hair texture on there, just to get a feel for it. Like when I was doing the beard, I just did some to create something that was going to be past the front hairs. So I could come into this tone. It helps me because I've created a little contour to the head. And I can come in here and I can take out a few of those hairs and just give myself the feeling that I'm starting to have some depth and some contour. And I can clean it up because if we have clean edges, we're going to end up by having something, the ability to go past a hair. It's going to make it a lot easier than if I just get really soft. It's all going to start blending together. And yet we can create quite a few different illusions. And it'll be very, very effective if we just keep some of those principles in mind. And then we can also even use our kneaded eraser. This kneaded eraser works very well. And so this kneaded eraser, it will work too. If you don't have the Mono Zero, if you just want to get a feel where the direction or the lighter hairs for maybe somebody that has blonde hair, we have this initial tone, and we can come back in with our kneaded eraser and form the blade on it and come up with something that is very, very efficient as well. So see, we have a point. I like to form mine in a teardrop if you're not familiar with the way I do an eraser. And then I can either have a point on this, so I can pick out little things that I might want. Should be able to just touch things off. Should be able to just lighten something up if you want, and or quickly just bend it over and make a blade. And that blade works very well if, again, you don't bury or press too hard, bury the pigment into the paper, burying the graphite into the fibers of the paper. You can still do very well just taking a quick little swipe and make sure that they're short enough to represent the hair length that you're working on. And take it out of that tone you laid down. Now, if I want to have more layers, I want it to be thicker or whatever, or I don't want it to be quite that bright, I can come in with my flat brush, and I can just very carefully cast some more value in there so that I can have a whole new opportunity for a highlight. And maybe this is on the shaded side of the head, so I don't want highlights that are too bright. So it's good for me to maybe just brush it, take some of that extra lead, put it on that dark side of the head, and now I still have highlights, but it isn't so bright as it would be on the front side. I don't know. I hope. It's kind of hard in just a real quick little demonstration, to tell everything. But maybe those are a few little hints and some of the things you might be able to use, Gavin, and help you just assess your subject, see what direction the hair is coming, how dark is the hair, how short is it, use that length of a stroke, and don't get too carried away with something that's too bold like this if it's not representing the hair. And if it is random, then you can make some random strokes a little bit different in direction, and something that is going to represent maybe that kinky hair or straight. I really don't know what you have that you're challenged with, but anyway, maybe this will help you. So we'll go ahead and see what we can do about answering some questions maybe another time, and hope you have fun drawing. That's the main idea. We'll see you later.